What makes a terrible pitch?
Ooh, probably not enough preparation, not knowing your character or your world. There are staples to every pitch. Everybody needs to know why you're the one to write the pitch, the show. You need to know your character really well. You need to know how they operate within the world, what the conflict is, what's the ensemble around them. And if you can't articulate that, it can be a mess. But I don't think anybody ever walks into a pitch thinking it's going to be a terrible pitch. They don't want to make a terrible pitch. That happens by accident. But when you know a show and you're passionate about a show, showing that passion goes a long way. That can really remedy a lot of ills. Even if you aren't great at articulating them in the way that you think is the smoothest way to do it, I think sometimes just your enthusiasm for the material and knowing that material and knowing what you want to say can be, make all the difference. I know it terrifies people. It's a terrifying thing to go in there and want to tell a story really well and not wanting to screw up. And because you don't want to screw up, you end up screwing up. But you have to remember that people have heard a lot of these things. They've heard 1,000 of these pitches. You're not bringing in anything new. It's very rare that you're bringing in something that's so wholly different. But what you are bringing is yourself. And that, coupled with the idea, is why people want you to write it. And remember, they're not creating a show for you to sit and tell the story on television, right? That's not you pitching is not the show. The show is how you're going to execute it on the page. So I think if you can release some of that anxiety and just go in and tell us and talk about why you love something and why you think it's a great idea, then the details don't matter. Especially if you're the person who comes in with a note card, or you come in with your page and your page is shaking, acknowledge it and just go, I'm awful at this. There are plenty of people who are terrible pitchers who end up selling things. So if you could just hang a lantern on it and just go, look, I'm going to botch this terribly, but guess what? I love this so much. And I think you should love it so much. Then, I think you could squeak by.
It sounds like then terrible pitch isn't nervousness, it's lack of enthusiasm.
Well, you can be nervous, but again, if you're nervous, there are so many other ways to mitigate that. So bring a partner, or bring your agent, or bring somebody who's going to fill in the blanks and who's going to, be your wingman. So there are ways to do that. Again, you can write it down. You can have them read. You can send them the deck in advance. These days, it's all on Zoom. Zoom has been the best thing in the world for people who are terrible pitchers, because you can read your document and no one's going to know. So there are ways that you can get around it. I think, barring a flop sweat, I think anybody can muscle through. And again, it's what you are on the page. So if they love you on the page and they've already said that they've loved you because you're in that room, whether it's a Zoom room or it's an in-person. So you've already got over the hurdle, the biggest hurdle. And then you just have to convince them that you have enough insight into the character and you know the world really well and there's something to say, that there's a relevancy to what you're saying, then you've got a lot of the big pieces.
But when someone lacks enthusiasm, then it doesn't matter if they're smooth as butter with their delivery, but there's just something, it's not convincing.
Well, here's the thing. Who would want to work with somebody who's not enthusiastic about a job? Because you are then spending, as we said, 12 hours a day on set for 22 episodes or 8 episodes or however many. It's a lot of time. It's the bulk of your year, right? You're coming up with a pitch and then getting in the room to pitch takes a long time to do it. So if you're not interested in it, why do it? What's the point? So you have to be enthusiastic, otherwise do something else.
If a pitch or screenplay is rejected, how does that writer build a relationship with the executives?
Okay, when you say rejected, though, what are you talking about? Are you talking about somebody that has already sold something and is rejected, or before you even get to the place where you're meeting for a general?
You're having a general and it's a pass.
Okay, but if it's, again, if you're sitting in the room with an executive, you've already won. They are already on your team, right? So it's up to you to then give them something that they will like. Or maybe it's just not for them. And maybe it's just the wrong timing. So there have always been times when we're looking for A and you're bringing us B. So we really need a family comedy for this slot, but you're bringing us an action comedy and we don't have space for it, nor can we afford it. Whatever it is, it might not be the right time. So your past might have nothing to do with you as a human being or your writing, your skill, or whether I like you. It might be a factor of many other things that you have no idea. The problem is that we always take it personally. We think it's us. You've said no, and I take it personally, right? So you have to get past that because, again, as we said before, executives are running a mile a minute. They are managing a lot of things. There's a lot of balls in the air, and that one thing might not be right. So keep moving. Let's keep moving. Because I've already invited you into my space. I've already said I like your writing. Now it's on you to say, okay, that didn't work. Here's what I would do if I was in that position. You've just passed to me. You go, I'm sorry, it's not working. I go, you know what? What are you looking for? Now that's a whole new conversation. Or, oh, yeah, I totally understand that. Thank you so much for reading it. That's so great. Let me float another thing by you. Something I'm working on. What do you think about this? And then you've hooked somebody with another. You don't even have to have the idea. You could say, you know what, I'm thinking about doing something about mother-daughter relationships or something about, dystopian worlds and, how somebody navigates that. Then again, you've then opened up another line of conversation where then that executive can say, oh, when you get something more, come back and pitch it to me. That's a conversation. Now, how do you land the plane in that meeting? At the end of the meeting, hopefully you say, you know what, my agent put us in touch. I would really love to have a direct line to you. Is that okay? Can I share my card with you, or can I give my information directly to your assistant, or can I have your number, or is it okay if I reach out in a couple weeks? There are ways to have a conversation, and particularly if you've connected over something. So let's just say you guys both have kids who are in AYSO. Hey, you know what? I wonder, are you going to be at the turkey tournament? I would love to see you. Let's grab coffee there. Whatever it is, there are threads everywhere that you can pull. That's why being in a room, a real room with somebody, gives you all of the other information about that person. What are the posters they have on the wall? What shows did they do? What's the coffee table book that they have? Everybody's got a coffee table book. What's the pictures that are on their desk? There's something that you can then key into and ask that person about themselves in that way, and then connect it back so that you start a relationship, just as though you would do with anybody. So there are ways to continue the conversation and even if you don't hear back from them, it doesn't mean that they haven't received the information. There's many times that I would get an email and I was running so fast that I didn't think to respond, but I still saw the email. I still saw that person's name. That person still was on my mind. So don't think that a no answer is no answer.
So that's the error, is thinking that it's a rejection when really they've invited you there. They've given you whatever amount of time. So
Right.
That's actually not a rejection.
No.
And then it's sort of the door is slightly open. And
then it's up to you to make the next move and to show that you've made some progress. So we're so good as human beings of filling in the blanks. We're like, oh, they hated me. And then you go down a rabbit hole where you just wonder all the things that you did wrong. And I must have crossed my legs in the wrong place. And I know when I took the sip, I choked on my water. And oh, they just hate me. And you go down this place that has absolutely no bearing on reality. Because again, they are the star of their own movie. And they're thinking about something else. Sure. They just said, oh my God, I had a really great meeting. And I wonder what I'm going to get back, And then it's up to you. You have to deliver. And remember, too, again, we're a town of show me something. Like, show me you're moving forward. If you're sitting in stasis, if you're locked in a block of ice and you are not moving forward, I don't really have time for you. I want the person who's actually out there doing something. So as soon as we show a little, as a writer, as soon as you show a little momentum on your own, we will then re-engage. So you get into a program, oh, I'm re-engaging with you. Or, you know, I don't know, you win a competition or someone else has brought your name up, and then I'm re-engaging. So, and you don't know what's happening under the surface. So there's a whole network of things that happen constantly that we are never privy to because no one's saying, I did this for you. But there are also many times where someone would come in to meet with me. I'd have a great meeting. I didn't have anything for them at the time, but it didn't mean that I didn't push that material to the current department or push that material to a friend of mine at a different network or mention that name somewhere or give a recommendation to that for that writer to a program. So there's a whole other network of things that are churning below the surface that are happening that are really working in your favor. And eventually all those things are going to line up somewhere. Eventually there's going to be a critical mass and those people are going to hear your name a couple of times and they're going to go, oh my God, I've heard that person's so great. And that's when your little bubble pops to the top. That's when your little Horton Hears a Who yop comes out, right? And all of a sudden, we are here,